It's time again to pick a side. In our first corner, we've got the Sagas from the movies Believers, where we're very likely to get a fusion warrior and potentially a powerful opponent from one of the movies as well. Where on the other side, we've got the Frieza Saga, the newest contender, where we're very likely to get an Ultra Super Saiyan Goku and or an Ultra Frieza. The last time I did this, it was between Saiyan Saga and movies, but movies took the L and movies are coming back again to potentially get the trophy in the finale of the 7th anniversary. The Dragon Ball Legends developers are throwing crazy curveballs, so in the comment section let me know which side you're on, and we're gonna dive into all the info regarding each of these potential outcomes for the 7th anniversary. Let's get into this. So let's start with the returning contender, Sagas from the movies. Now I will go out straight away and not even hold back. If it's going to be anything from Sagas from the movies, it needs to be a fusion warrior, and that's the idea most people are backing. Considering we're getting an Ultra, we would be basing it off all the Ultra fusion warriors we've got, and there's only one we haven't got unless they go for a game originals. We already have Vegito Blue, we already have Super Vegito, and that writes off all the Vegetos anyways. So if we go into the Gogetas, we've got Super Gogeta from Fusion Reborn, we've got Gogeta Blue from the DBS Broly movie, and we've also got Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Unironically, those three Gogetas are actually going to be returning regarding their summoning banners. But there's one we haven't got, and it's just based on the fact that in the DBS Broly movie, Gogeta took his time leveling up. The Super Saiyan variation of the DBS Broly Gogeta. I should also note, this is dependent on if they ignore the base forms of Vegito and Gogeta. But for cool gimmicks, it's very likely they would make them transform, and I think that goes without saying. Before I go into more detail as well, I should definitely emphasize it's very likely that we will be getting two Ultras. It's not 100% guaranteed, but it's a very high possibility right now. The reason for this is because we haven't got more than one Ultra in the whole year of 2025, and if we compare to last year in 2024, by this time we already got two, Ultra Golden Frieza and Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, but we're in July of 2025 and the only Ultra we've got is Ultra Perfect Cell, who was quite early in the year. But right now, between then, it's been 8 Legends Limited. 8 Legends Limited as a gap between the last Ultra and potentially getting one in this next part. That's quite big. So a lot of people think intentionally they've left quite a large gap with the intention of dropping 2 Ultras for the part 3 of the 7th anniversary, making the anniversary feel a lot more spectacular. So with that being the case, if they're going to drop a DBS Broly movie Gogeta, then I think it's also very likely we would get a powerful opponent, in that being Ultra Broly. Now there's not a lot of evidence that would back this at the current moment, but one thing we can say is regard the recent Ultra returns. So we recently got the return banners of Ultra Turles and Ultra Perfect Cell, and this is quite an early return for an Ultra that released only a couple months ago. Turles obviously released last year, but the main thing those two have in common is powerful opponent. And like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be getting 3 return banners for Gogetas: Blue, Super Gogeta, and Super Saiyan 4. With that being the case, the thing they all have in common is Fusion Warriors. So to theme the part 3 around DBS Broly makes a lot of sense if you pair these guys together. That's also assuming they don't do any repetitions. I think it's very possible we could also get a Super Gogeta from the Fusion Reborn movie, but I don't think that would be appealing considering he's the first summonable Ultra already. So unless they go some game originals route, the evidence based on the return banners are lining up for these two. One more piece of evidence to defend the Broly case: the Zenkai Revival Frieza. At first glance, this is definitely a Frieza Saga buff, but it just being Frieza points towards powerful opponent without saying. So that would add to that idea that it's not Frieza Saga but a powerful opponent buff, but the powerful opponent tag is a lot more vague. It could mean it's an antagonist from anywhere in this series, but most people are leaning towards Sagas from the movies because it's an extremely popular tag, and in almost every celebration the developers find a way to include it one way or another. Now let's look at Frieza Saga and all the points that could relate to anything from this saga dropping in the part 3. Well, the biggest factor, which I already mentioned earlier, is that the Revival Frieza got a Zenkai. That is a big thing to come out of nowhere, which definitely aligns with Frieza Saga. It's literally Frieza. Considering we just came out the Saiyan Saga, it's pretty much the next arc, but it's still a huge jump no matter what arc they go to, because they can literally do anything. In part 1 we just went from Universe Rep into Saiyan Saga in part 2, so part 3 could literally have gone anywhere, and they decided to Zenkai this Revival Frieza. There's not much more to that, to be honest. It's just a very big point that really can't be avoided. It's like a sore thumb. It's sticking out hella. There's one other thing, but it doesn't directly have to correlate with the Frieza Saga. They dropped an awakened equipment which is supposed to help out any Frieza Force or range type members, but specifically Frieza Force. The reason I think it doesn't necessarily have to relate to Frieza Saga is because it's very helpful for the green Vegeta that we got in part 2. Even though it's Saiyan Saga, he's a part of the Frieza Force at this time, which means that he would be very able to use this equipment. It would help him out quite a bit. So regardless of if we get anything Frieza Saga related, this Vegeta can eat off this, especially depending on what team you run him on. If you run him with Nappa, he's also part of the Frieza Force. If they Zenkai or give a Legends Limited a Platinum equipment, maybe Nappa and Vegeta, then any team surrounding this Vegeta would look a lot more stacked. So I think for the equipment, you don't have to read into it too much, but at the same time, especially based on the image on the equipment, it's very much so hinting towards Frieza Saga. Outside of these two bits, there's not much more information to go off of, but what I will mention is that we've had the theme of Goku's and Vegeta's the whole way through. Well, it's only part 1 and part 2, but that's pretty much 2/3 of the anniversary. So if we continue on with that notion, one thing that's backing Frieza Saga is that it's very likely we get an Ultra Goku. I feel the evidence for this is pretty strong. We get a Goku and Vegeta part 1, a Goku and Vegeta part 2, and then to just switch it up in part 3 would kind of be a curveball. Not completely, but it would make the most sense to just continue the trend all the way through. A weak piece of evidence to back this would be the idea of a Super Saiyan Vegeta from Namek. Sparking Zero did something like this, and because we haven't got a Game Originals in a long time, and recently Charlotte got a buff, a lot of people are looking for the Game Originals tag to get something in this anniversary. So then with this, it makes it possible for them to drop 2 Ultras while also continuing the Goku and Vegeta theme. I'm just pointing out the ideas that exist in the community, but the basis for this isn't really strong. The only real strong points is the Frieza Zenkai and the fact that we've had Goku and Vegeta the whole way through, so you would naturally assume they would continue the pattern. It's still a little early, and I imagine we might get more of a hint closer to the end of the week, but for now, this is all we've got. But let me give you my opinion on what I think is more likely. Now it's time to make the big decision. But imagine, yeah, first off, let me just bring this up. Imagine it's neither. It's like there's no sagas from the movies, there's no Frieza Saga. Imagine. I would be like, bro, what the hell? But this is like the big game day. You know that picture of like Rice Gum picking which streaming service he's gonna go to? This is the big decision. Which side are you on? Are you on sagas from the movies or are you on Frieza Saga? Which way are you going? This is going to be a hard decision, but honestly for me, for hype purposes, I really want to pick sagas from the movies, but Frieza Saga, they're putting up a good contest right now, so I'm leaning both ways, honestly. But what if I raised you this? It's gonna be both. This could be very interesting here, and it's not something they haven't done before in some way, shape or form. If we take our asses back to the first anniversary, we see that we got Super Vegito, a Buu Saga unit, a Fusion Warrior, but we still also got the Goku Blue and Vegeta Blue. So what if here we get a Fusion Warrior, but we also still get a powerful opponent, or it could be a Goku from the Frieza Saga? See, now I've got you thinking, because maybe you picked a side, but then both showing up would be a major curveball. But I'm just putting that in the air. But let's say I actually had to pick, which side would I go? I'm not gonna lie, I'm siding with the sagas from the movies, bro. I feel like there's no way. They just returned, they're not in the game at the moment, but returned 2 sagas from the movies, Fusion Warriors, and a 3rd Gogeta. There's no way they're not dropping a Fusion Warrior. I feel like that pattern is too rock solid to be ignored. Them specifically tailoring the Ultra returns around what character they plan to drop, we are for sure getting a Fusion Warrior, and I very much so think it's going to be a sagas from the movies unit. But that's just my own deduction, and it's mainly based on the idea that every single year without fail in the anniversary, we have got a Fusion Warrior, and I don't really see them switching up. I know it's very hard to hold that notion when we've got all the way to part 3 and no Fusion Warrior has showed up, which is very rare. But this is still the Dragon Ball Legends developers we're talking about. If they're trying to make sales, Fusion Warriors are very consistent. Also adding in the concept of the web store, they're trying to make bank this year. And I think taking a risk for the part 3, the Ultra, the real moneymaker, is not exactly a big risk, but it's riskier than dropping a Fusion Warrior. Anything else is riskier than dropping a Fusion Warrior. So I'm gonna stick with the sagas from the movies. I'm trying to give them their run back. You know, they lost in part 2, but I think they'll have a solid fight in part 3 and take out the Frieza Saga believers. But worst case scenario for the side that I've picked, it's just gonna be both. But if you're asking me and I had to pick one or the other, I'm sticking with Sagas from the movies, but you guys let me know in the comment section which side you guys are favoring. It feels like this has been a short video, but unfortunately this is the end of the video. I don't have anything else to say. There's not many points to bring up. I'm not gonna stretch the video further. I don't think it's necessary to do so. But if there's anything I did miss regarding any of the sides that you want to defend, let me know in the comment section below. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.